Hello there. This is Yasmin West, the Reiki accountant. And today I'm here to share with you a podcast I was on a while back, which discussed some of my healing modalities that I use, Reiki and Scalar Energy healing, and kind of how that works, and a little bit of a testimonial as well to go along with it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here's the presentation.
And welcome to the Shungite Reality Show. It is May 10th, 2022. My name is Nancy Hopkins. With me is Derek Condit and Yasmin West. I'm not sure, did Mark get here? Walt's supposed to be here, but I didn't know you wanted me today. I'm at some store, so I'm hoping he checks in with us when he gets off of the store. And Mark is not here yet?
No, I think it's us three.
Say what?
I think it's you, myself, and Yasmin.
Okay, all right.
Fun.
That's all I see.
I have no clue as to where Mark is. One of those days. One of those days. So, Derek, I'm not going to ask you how your day is going.
No, we don't need to get into much. You guys, yeah.
And
up well.
And Yasmin, welcome. Thank you for being here, because you have some really interesting things that you sent us an email and you said, look, at these things are happening. Do you want to talk about these? And I was like, yeah.
Cool.
One of the hardest jobs I have in radio is trying to figure out, what are we going to talk about? so Derek, shall we have her start out, or do you want to?
No,
okay.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Yasmin. Take us down the road.
Okay. Let's see. I guess we'll start out with the Reiki Scalar testimonial that I recently got. And this was actually for a session that was done a while ago, but he had taken some time off for spring break. And so he just got around to responding to me. So it's a short testimonial, but I highlighted a couple points that we might want to discuss as far as what I know. I had some thoughts on what was going on, and then you guys might want to chime in as well. So I'll read you the part of my report, which I kind of highlighted. I talked about, it was about 11 hours. So it was, an 11-hour session. And, I had some stones and the Shungite and some essential oils on the input coils of the scalar unit and did my Reiki thing. And then I had this final note, which I sent to him. He gave me permission to use his name, Ray, who I know Nancy, and Mark knows. And so I said to him as a final note, when I was sending your Reiki, my energy kept getting pulled away to notice the ears. There was an instant clearing that happened in the ears. Things got much more clear and audible. I would refocus the Reiki, and then it would occur again. It felt more prominent on the left ear, but it did occur in both. I didn't sense anything negative or wrong, just that something wanted me to make note of it. I'm not sure if this is significant to you or not. If not, just keep it at the back of your mind in case it has some sort of message for you in the future. It could have also meant that you will soon be opening up to some sort of clairaudient abilities. I got that sense as well. And so his response had a couple of things which I highlighted. But first off, he said, regarding my ears, I was hospitalized in May 2018 as I was suffering from hearing loss. Allopaths claimed it was an autoimmune thing resulting from a brain infection. My hearing returned after 3 days of loss or so. I have a history of left inner ear issues not related to the hospitalizations. More recently, I've struggled with tinnitus, which just seems to increase in both ears. This might not be actual tinnitus, but rather something in the brain. Last couple of years, I've taught myself to question traditional allopathic medicine. It appears that the Reiki energy was going to the correct path. And then a couple other things that he noticed. So interestingly, late that Thursday night, and I have no memory of this, Mark could hear me down the hallway screaming in my sleep. Yikes. He had his own room and both our doors were closed. So I must have been very loud. We compared notes a couple days later, and we think I could have been detoxing from something. Any thoughts or input would be appreciated. And then he said, one detail I forgot to include, during the actual Scalar Energy session, while the Spooky 2 was on, I noticed that things that would usually bother me didn't. For example, students that often approach me with issues just didn't affect me. I teach 7th grade, and 12 and 13-year-olds can be very challenging. It was as if certain energies were held at bay. This was ongoing throughout the morning that the device was on. So I kind of got the impression that specific message of me getting his left ear kept drawing my attention. I kind of think that that was just kind of the energies and source just kind of telling both of us, hey, you know, this is working. I kind of got that message. And then as far as the screaming in the middle of the night, it was interesting that he had no recollection of it, but I also took that to be kind of a detox on maybe the more mental levels and maybe deep in his subconscious, something that he wasn't even aware of. So that was interesting. And also that things didn't bother him while the scalar unit was on. That just is in line with everything. You know, most people feel that. They feel very peaceful when the unit's running. So I don't know if you had any thoughts, Derek or Nancy, that you want to chime in with.
There we go. Struggling with the mute button. Yeah, I was taking some notes here. Yeah, that's similar. And of course, lots of people describe things a little bit differently and some similar. The whole left ear is funny that you were kind of cluing on that one too. I kind of call that our I keep changing the name, but metaphysical ear to start with. So long story short, that often when I'm doing a session myself, regardless if it's me just, you know, flinging frequencies or using a scalar unit, whichever one, that's what happens typically with, I guess we can call them clients of mine. So I'm just give you a visual too, because it's just easier for me not to try and go down some structured description. Long story short, when I'm doing a session with somebody in the office and I hold up my hands to start that frequency, I can see the aura or the, I'll call it the energy flow around them at the time because it's a little bit different. Loosens, becomes a little, kind of, okay, it looks like somebody's wearing, when they walk in the office, and let's say they're all tense or stressed and they need to ground to earth. So that way I get that impression across. When I perceive them and they're in that state, which is a lot of us a lot of the time, it looks like they're wearing maybe 12 layers of clothing. And they're like, you know, it's hard to move and that kind of thing. And that's literally, it's all around them and around their arms and legs and stuff. So when I start the energy work and in my head, I'm just saying, or sometimes out loud, I want to remove excess and overage, anything out of alignment for that person. And that same thing, it's not a set spiel that has to be said, but when I do it, that sets a certain frequency, similar to the scalar when you're talking about with your client. And then all of a sudden, from at least the metaphysical visual perspective, it all, it's weird to say, but calms down. I don't know how to say that, but loosens. I know it's hard to talk about a clothing when I started with 12 layers, but that's what it does. So now it doesn't look like somebody's wearing excess clothing. It looks like they're wearing the layers, however many that is, that they should wear. And I don't know if that made any sense whatsoever, but when I see it from that perspective, the same thing happens with my clients on scalar sessions. And when they're in that state, they can more easily connect to the metaphysical, their guides, themselves, and things like that. And it more often than not comes in the left ear. So that's what happens when I see that. And then also adding on, there was some comment in there about, I'll just word it my own terms, something about not so much outside noise or static or disruptions, or I forget how it was worded by him, but that makes sense too. Because when I do the same thing to others that have maybe been diagnosed with schizophrenia or this, that, and the other, well, that goes away instantaneously, and it can. It's all an energy frequency thing. So in the scalar field, it just basically, it's not even giving you anything. It's making everything, again, I like Nancy's term, more cohesive, and then just gets rid of whatever's not good for you. So all those descriptions that I think you said Ray described make complete sense. And while an individual's in that state or realization, an add-on they can do, and as you already know, they can get all excited and emotional about it and start imagining it, being the end result, and then you can give it a little boost. But that's really interesting that you got that good feedback.
Yeah, it was super specific, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah. I
never had it be that specific before.
Huh. Yeah. Well, you keyed on some set things there with the whole left ear, a lot of little synchronicities in there that make sense. So I bet, yeah, now he's got to get other people to give some more feedback, but it's a hard thing to talk about, as you know, because there's not really words for it, a lot of it. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, just a lot of feelings that you kind of get. But yeah, and even, I was observing this ear thing as I was sending Reiki, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I should mention this, but go ahead, type it up in the report. And, it was good I did, because it gives, not that we need credibility. I mean, I think we're all kind of at that point where we know this stuff works, but it's nice to have.
Okay, for those people that don't, might not know what we're talking about, can you guys, one of you or both of you, just discuss the basic procedure and what we're talking about? Scalar energy. What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about a device that creates scalar energy, but can you kind of go into it and give people a background so they understand what we're talking about?
Sure. Do you want to explain that, Derek?
Yeah, I get into some of it. Let's just, like you're saying, bounce back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's lots of ways of describing this too. So and for those that are interested on both mine and Yasmin's websites, there's good descriptions and explanations, and it's great to get it from different angles, because there's no one concrete way to really wrap your head around this stuff. That's why it's awesome having so many people do these things, energy work or scalar or Reiki or whatever. But long story short, I'm not going to get into all the history and all that, because then I'd have to bring it up and just start reading word from word up on here. But the original discovery was back in the 19th century. And again, I won't get into all the specifics, but everybody from James Maxwell to Albert Einstein to Nikola Tesla, lots of big-brained individuals out there are very familiar with scalar energy waves, and they use them from different devices and in different waves. Pun not intended, but scalar is a waveform. So it's I like to describe it as kind of a container of energy. So it's not that it's a specific energy, but it's a way for energy to be carried in the same, I'll just say again, the engineers out there, give me some leeway. So in the same waveform that a human body has. So what I'm saying is kind of in the same, I just have to use the word waveform because I don't have a better one, but it synchronizes well. And then within that scalar waveform, you can put other frequencies, energies, things like that. And I don't have a really good analogy yet, but within that, you can reset yourself. A big portion of it is to the level of understanding the person has, because if you're open to it and realize, well, there are no limits, you can heal anything instantaneously, well, then guess what you're going to more often or not experience than somebody who's doubting things. So that's a factor in it. But scalar energy, it can, but doesn't have to affect 3D objects. So meaning you can have It's a device, long story short. On the ones we're using, they're called the Spooky 2, and you can, search engine that later if you're interested in it, but it's available online, the Spooky 2 Scalar system. And it's just think so you get a visualization, 2 briefcases with antennas built in the lids facing each other, and you can put objects, people, anything in the middle of that, and you'll be in the middle of that scalar field. So think you're making a little container, an environmental container, being in that waveform is what it would be. And then you have the option of then introducing additional Rife frequencies or supplements or something like that in different ways. I won't get too much into that. So lots of ways. I don't know how much I explained it there to where it's comprehensible. Yasmin, do you want to add in something?
Sure. And like the way I like to do my sessions is because I've been doing Reiki for a while, I like to bring in the Master Reiki symbol, which is the energy that it's both physical, emotional healing, and also it transcends time and space and location. So it's like, it can kind of be explained as, it's a symbol that I draw that I put in there, and that energy goes within the scalar field. But, it can kind of be described as an intention. So my intention is always, it depends on the person I'm working for and, what kind of a read I got from them initially, or any information that they may have volunteered. But I'm trying to use, because Reiki is not something that is ever forced on someone, and so I feel like it pairs very nicely with the scalar, because the person is free to accept or reject that energy, depending on what they need. So yeah, and I definitely utilize the silver saturated Shungite nugget on the input coil, so that adds another layer in there, and then whatever stone or essential oil that I'm guided to add. And so that's just all more information going into that scalar field, which the person is able to either accept or reject, depending on what they need. So